And we are, I think, live,
Okay.
everybody. It was only a week-long hiatus, but because we had had so many hiatus
Yeah.
why before I don't know, what's the plural of hiatus?
Hiatus. Yeah, I have no idea if there is if there is a plurality for that.
But whatever it
Yeah.
was, because of the holidays and stuff,
Yep.
we've been on and off, but that's okay. I mean, some people I know, they only stream once a month, so I feel like doing anything regularly is an achievement.
We should start numbering these so that they have like a number so that like because we just do it and then like it
That's
doesn't
true.
actually list how many of them that we've done. This is like a podcast version of a situationship.
I'll go I'll go back and add numbers because you're right. When we do
Yeah.
that, it's easier to keep track of, and also people can see, wow,
Hmm.
they've done because we have done a number of shows. What's up, everybody? So grateful to my mods. Just want to recognize them here at the outset. AJ, what is up? AJ Stone, Vanessa V. Also, hello. I see Rebel Bird here and Laura B. And there she is. I was going to say Laura
All
B is
right.
off and on as well. Not to be confused, those in the depth community of someone who's at the center of some controversy, but we'll talk about that later, perhaps.
Okay.
So, Brett, tell me what's been going on in your life the last. No, but I mean, just seriously, because I feel like in between us getting together, what was
Mhm.
it, 2 weeks ago for your show? I feel like a lot of time has somehow passed.
That was 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
it
that was
feels
about 2 weeks
longer.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Work's just working a lot as always. Just do a lot of work every single day, and that's life. Kind of flows one day into the next when all you do is get up every day and go to work, right? But blessed to have a job. So how bad can it be?
You work very hard. We've talked about it before, but you are constantly streaming or recording, right?
Yep.
Basically,
Yep.
yeah,
We're
and
working a
skating,
lot. So
and
yeah,
skating.
and well, yeah, when not as much as I'd like lately, sadly, but
Yeah,
hopefully more now that once the weather turns.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the skating
No.
because I feel no, but I don't mean that to sound like
No.
that. I think you have a problem. No, no, but I think it's interesting. I wanted to ask this question. You get banged up a lot, right? When you're learning to skate? I mean, that's not my question, but as a
Just
preliminary, you get banged up a
20
lot, right?
20 plus years of doing it, your body is pretty beat up compared to people that of your age normally, right? When you do something that's physically taxing very often for 2.5 decades,
True.
it's bad on the body. I was out for about 2 months this summer, but I've been pretty lucky to not have a bunch of extensive injuries. I've torn ligaments and I've done damage like that, but I never broke any bones. I broke more
Torn
bones.
ligament sounds horrible, though. I mean,
Yeah,
painful.
only because it's like a longer healing time, and
Mhm,
like when you break a bone, it's a pretty set period of time. Once you're in a cast between when it starts to when you heal up, right? But
mhm.
with torn ligaments, depending on where it is, like if it's an ankle, if it's somewhere in your ankle or if it's in your calf or down there, and you got to walk every day and you got a job, it's not exactly something that you can just get away from. So,
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I always look at people who skate and I think about, first of all, like, "Oh, that looks really cool," but then it's like, how many injuries have these people got? And this was the question actually I had for you, though. Do you feel like people who engage in activities like that where they do have to take a lot of pain, do you feel like you have a higher pain tolerance than other people? Or do you think there's some kind of like, do you build up a pain tolerance to it?
there's a great meme where it says like a doctor asks a patient, he says, rate your pain on a scale of 0 to 10. He says, he goes, well, what's the normal amount? And he goes, the normal amount is none. I'm always kind of just,
I get
I'm
it. Yeah, yeah.
always kind of generally
I get it.
sore, especially in the
Mhm.
summers and stuff like that. It's a little bit worse right now. When I was skating every day and I was skating 7 days a week, your body it gets more in shape to it.
Mhm.
Whereas now when I'm only getting out on the weekends, it's a lot harder on my body. But that's also just because I'm aging. But like when I was in my mid 30s and I was skating every day, I was in better shape legs wise and like health wise than I ever was in my 20s when I was skating less frequently 4 days a week, but taking more risks. So to skate 7 days
Mm.
a week, but just put in an hour to two each day was actually probably the best shape I feel like I'd ever been in. So,
I can
Age really
totally
isn't
believe
the
that. No,
yeah,
I was gonna say it looks like it would
yeah,
actually be great for your body
yeah,
aside from the occasional mishaps,
yeah,
right? If but, like,
yeah,
seriously, a lot of respect for that. It
mm,
looks like, to me, it's so interesting
mm,
and just aesthetically interesting to watch. When I look at your some of your videos
mm,
or other people that you're skating with and you do one of, your little,
mm,
like, flips or
mm.
turns or whatever, and I'm just like, that's, like, almost like ballet or something. It's cool. So,
It's to me, it's more about like setting small goals and challenging yourself to do
mm,
something. I think one of the great things about that is that if you have something like that, it doesn't have to be skating. Whether it's if you're a distance runner, or if you're a gym rat and you have areas within physical fitness that you can set goals for yourself and then go and work to accomplish those goals. I think that's good for everybody. And I feel like a lot of people that I know, like some of their biggest problems come from the fact that they don't realize that they're just not getting enough exercise. And I certainly notice
yeah.
it. Like when I go periods of time or long periods of time without exercising, it's bad for me mentally. So the
Mhm.
more I can get out and do something like that, the better.
No, it's true, and there's research indicating that just getting regular exercise
Yeah.
is as or more effective than antidepressants, and there's a whole debate about the effectiveness of antidepressants, I know, but it really is powerful. Unfortunately, when you're in a depressive state, and it's not an excuse, but having been there, unfortunately,
Yeah.
often the last thing you feel like doing is exercising. But it was one of those things, like if I was in, even when I was in a really depressive state, I always felt better, even if I hated it.
Yeah.
Hated, taking that 30-minute fast walk or that run or whatever, but I always felt
Did
better.
you play any sports growing up?
I consider it a sport, even though it's not what you would think of, but I was on the dance team and I
Okay,
took
yeah.
many, many years of dance, and that's one reason why I'm
That's hard
so
on your
impressed
body
by
too.
skateboarding. Yeah, and
Yep,
again, it's kinda like you were saying with the skating, it depends on how you're doing it,
yep,
what type of dance, so for instance, I was no Natalie Portman in Black Swan, but I was
yeah,
on point in ballet for a while. You can't convince me that that is good for your for your body, in this. I mean, in some ways, great for some of your muscles. Got a lot of muscle tone,
yeah,
in certain parts of my body. But in terms of what's going on with your feet and the unnatural contortions of the foot and the ankles, and anyway, what have you. But I did a lot of other stuff. I did, even stuff like hip hop, and took
yep,
classes and traditional jazz and all of that. And I feel like that was excellent exercise. And so I feel like people, especially, when they're young, we have so many, unfortunately, so many young people, and I think this is part of what's behind the obesity epidemic. Although I know obesity is largely a matter of eating what you eat and not exercise necessarily, but we have so many young people with obesity problems now, and also a big sedentary problem.
yeah,
And so I feel like it doesn't have to, you don't have to play basketball or run track, but find something that you can halfway stomach doing. And so for me now, at this point in my life, I'm not on a dance team or whatever, but what I do is I walk every day, and like I walk to and from work, and people will marvel over it and they'll say, "Why do you want to do that? Do you not have a ride or whatever?" And it's like, "No, I need to do this."
yeah.
you
No,
know.
before I had this job, the last job that I had, like when I lived
Also,
in
I'm sorry, by
Minnesota.
the way, Big
Yeah,
Dave has been up
yeah.
here forever with the 99-cent super chat. So thank you. So
Thank you, Big
I'll
Dave.
move you along. Appreciate you. Go
But
ahead.
like before I came out here, before I did this job, I walked to work every day. I didn't have a car back then. I was living in a city,
Mhm.
and I walked everywhere all the time. And it's funny. Like I said, like between skating every day and walking to get everywhere that I went, I was in really really
Mhm.
good shape, and it was without even really trying. Like I didn't have like I'm a notoriously bad eater. Like I have the diet of a child. I do. And
No, I struggle with that as well.
that was standing like the fact that I was so physically active every day. And at that time I had a job. I was doing building maintenance for an apartment complex, so I was moving
Oh,
between
yeah, yeah.
buildings all day. But there
Lots
was
of
like
lots of
it
exercise.
was like four separate buildings, so I was moving between all four buildings all day long. So I was on my feet all day. This job that I have now, as much as I love it, I'm very much sedentary. And sometimes the hardest thing you can do is like you get done working 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Usually my day is about 9 to 10 hours. And sometimes the last thing you want to go do is
Right,
even something that I love, like skating. It's hard
right.
to do. In the summer, it's a little bit easier because I can go outside and I can get away from where I am right now.
Right.
And just getting to me, it's not even necessarily always about the exercise, it's the fresh air and just getting
Yeah, yeah,
out
yeah.
of
I see that.
the office or whatever.
Mhm.
So all of those things play such a huge role in it. But I think a lot of people, and I think part of it comes from getting sober and learning to listen to your body, is that you can kind of tell when you're starting to cabin fever a little bit, and it's
Mm,
like you're starting to if I'm on my phone too much, or if I'm spending too much time online, it's really really bad for you mentally. And
that's
then by
true.
the time you get that far, it gets really hard to break that cycle. But
Mm.
learning to be able to break that cycle, like you said, it doesn't have to be like some super strenuous physical activity. Go walk around the block, something like that, and it's amazing how much just a little bit of exercise go like how far that goes in helping you feel better.
Yeah, I am a real proponent of walking, and it's not just because I personally enjoy doing it, but I feel like it is such an underrated activity when I and you know this, I know, if you look at a lot of different research, and I know there's issues at times with scientific research, but there's so many studies that indicate that just brisk walking, and it doesn't have to be some insane, where they're just like swinging the arms
Yeah.
and all of that. I mean, no offense if that's how people like to walk. I know it's effective, but like just walk fast. If you do that 20 minutes, 5 days a week, or every other day, even, like, it has so many benefits, health
Yeah.
benefits, and so anyway, I think sometimes people, you don't wanna let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and people think, "Okay, if I'm gonna get healthier, it means I need a gym membership, and I need just, like, a total refashioning of my entire life," when really just start making some changes that don't feel big to you, but that actually cumulatively really can help.
Incremental changes are huge, and it's why so many of the New Year's resolutions fail, right? Because everybody tries to make the big change all at once, and that's usually not the best thing to do. The best thing you can do is make changes a little bit at a time as they're comfortable to you, and it's the long-term benefits overall end up being more transformative. It's just that you don't notice it right away because it doesn't all happen at once.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned something about the cold, and I totally get that. As somebody who, even though Texas, we don't have the worst winters, but like when it's cold, we just had
Mhm.
14-degree weather earlier, and so like that's definitely, yeah, an impediment. And so I'll
Whew.
do something. I even when my significant other is not at home and I just feel free to whatever, I will put on a song, and I don't even have to be like
Mhm.
dancing all out, but I'll just for like 20 or 30 minutes, I'll do other things or whatever, or looking at things, but I'm trying to just move. And that's the thing that I wish people emphasized more about exercise is like you're just trying to like
Yeah.
move, like you wouldn't want a
14
car to
degrees in
sit there
Texas.
forever. It was 14 degrees for a little while. Did you got some snow though, right? We didn't
Oh
really get
yeah,
snow.
yeah. It was out here was look, it's really funny because I'm like being from Minnesota, the weather is pretty awful most of the winter, most winters. But out here, I've been out here for almost three, it'll be like this is my third winter out here, and
Yeah.
this is like the first winter with any real snow. And it's different because in the Midwest where I was, it was very flat. So you
Yeah.
weren't dealing with a lot of incline. So even though you're not getting nearly as much snow out here, going up and down winding hills and stuff can be rather treacherous, even though it's not nearly as snowy.
Yeah.
But I laugh because like out here, it's getting down to like the 20s and the 30s, and I'm perfect. Like if it were up to me, it would be 58 degrees all year round. I don't want it any warmer than that.
I
I
agree with
hate
you.
warm
Low
weather.
60s for me is perfect. Low 60s.
I overheat really really easily, so I'd prefer like the lower temperatures. So if we're in the 40s, I am I am plenty good there.
Um, what's the hottest place you've ever lived? Like, have you ever lived somewhere where you're just like, "Oh," or not really?
I've only ever lived in Minnesota and here.
Oh, okay,
Only
okay.
two
Well, so
places I've
yeah,
ever
no one.
lived. Yep.
It's funny though how people in different parts of the country really do relate to heat and cold a bit differently because like when I went to visit my friend in Idaho, and it was 90 degrees or 88 degrees, which yes, of course that's warm or that's hot, but like they were all these Idaho natives who are used to all this cold weather. They were like dying, and I'm like, well, it's not that yeah,
Yeah.
but if the situation's reversed, like people come down to Texas and we get a little ice or snow and everybody freaks out. So I know.
Every time I've ever been in Texas, it's been getting too hot for me. So
I agree with you on that
yeah.
sentiment. AJ says 55 degrees here right now. Oops, where are you, AJ?
55 is
Yeah,
perfect. That's
55
perfect.
is perfect. Nova says Nick Rakita is drunk. Does Nick is he admitting that he's drunk right now? Is it like he like on a live drunk? Is that what's going on? Live stream drunk?
That sounds like hell to me.
D-
The
uh,
idea of
being drunk
like
on a stream.
drinking on stream is just that sounds like a special brand of hell to me.
I'm actually drinking water. I wish it
Mm,
were alcohol though.
mm.
It'd be funny. This is it's this nice chalice though. I like it. It kind of reminds me of
You
like
should,
Indiana Jones or
you
something
should
when he
get
goes
a
to the
Stanley
trail.
Cup. You should get one of those Stanley Cups.
Oh man, but I'm serious. I want to know is what does that mean about Nick Rakita? So does he get drunk on his show often? Is this an unusual situation? If he is a
I have
movie,
not watched Nick's streams. I used to watch Nick's videos when he covered, oddly enough, when he covered Depp and Heard. But
I
like,
think that he's
yeah.
really interesting or entertaining, but I just don't watch other people's YouTube very much. I mean, honestly, like you are probably your show, which is a good time to plug your show, Pop
Yeah.
Culture Crisis. Let me get the link. Your
Yes,
show,
guys.
your show is actually one of the few that I will watch sometimes. I mean, I'd like to say I watch it more, but I just don't watch
Yeah.
anyone's stuff. I'm just so I don't know. But hold on one second. I get the
I
link.
feel like once you start creating content, it gets harder to.
'Cause you're so, like,
Yeah.
over it, you know? That's
Yeah.
the thing is, like, okay, I wanna get if I'm gonna make a video that day or if I wanna work on something for the week or if put up something on Instagram or Twitter, right? Then I'm just kinda over it then. I don't really wanna watch anybody else's.
Also, like I'm lucky
Alright,
enough to
here's the
kind
link
of.
for Pop
Thank
Culture
you guys.
Crisis.
Yes, go follow us. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers, so you
Almost
should go join
there.
us.
Almost there,
But
yep.
like what I found is like for me at least, because I'm very blessed and I'm lucky enough to create content within the same space of stuff that I used to watch. Like I don't want to go watch a bunch of content that's talking about the same stuff that I do because I don't
Mhm.
want their opinions to
That's
to
true.
influence my own. At least not until after I've had a chance to
Right.
kind of digest the topics myself, figure out how I feel about it. Then sometimes I'll go back through. I do still watch a lot of movie reviews because that's very different than like your opinions on the social aspect of some part of Hollywood is vastly different than how I interpret film. So I can still go watch a movie review, but I still even then try to
Interesting.
wait until after I've seen the movie to watch other people's reviews.
Hmm. Um, what have you seen recently that you have liked? Tell me.
Oof.
Does anything stand out?
All we've seen in the new year was the Mean Girls reboot, and it's not good.
It wasn't good. Was
I
it woke?
really
Was
liked
it like a woke thing or no?
it's no, it's I don't like musicals, and
Oh,
it
okay.
is. I mean, I guess you could use that term because like all the women are kind of not as hot as the women in the original, and it's very not good. At least in my opinion, it's not good. I am sure there's some people that enjoyed it, but I really liked season 2 of Reacher.
I heard that was good.
I didn't like it as much as I liked season 1, but that's okay. I still think it's pretty far above most of the other content that's coming out from Hollywood these days. I also was not aware until very recently that the actor who leads that show, Alan Ritchson, he has like a channel on religion as well that he does called InstaChurch, which is really
Church.
cool. Yeah, that's what it's
Interesting.
called. And he's he does a lot of content in that sphere, which is very, very cool. He talks a lot about the conundrums of being a Christian in Hollywood, and I found that really, really
Oh, I wanna check that out.
fascinating.
That sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
Yep.
Um, AJ mentioned something that I was kind of interested to know more about, American Fiction. Do you know anything about this?
I have not seen it. I don't know if that's out yet. He'd have to let me know if
Do
that's
you
out
know
yet.
what it is? Could you like
I wouldn't be able to summarize. He might have to ask him for a
AJ,
summary.
put a comment
Yeah.
down or anybody who knows. The extent of what I know about it is that it's supposed to be satirizing like
Yeah.
diversity, like DEI type
Yeah.
attitudes or something. So
Yeah,
anyway,
something
let us
like
know.
that.
I'm curious.
I remember the description being fairly interesting, but that tends to not be the type of movies. I'd much rather go see The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
I have no idea what that is, but I love the title and I like Jason
Yep.
Statham. Um so I wanted to ask you, what did you think? I have a couple of things in mind
Yep.
for us to talk about, and a bit of controversy that I stepped into. But I wanted to ask you, what are some stories the last couple of weeks? Is there anything that stands out that you'd like to talk about in pop culture world?
Oh, anytime you pose this question, it's like everything I've covered in the last 2 weeks just goes
Goes out of your head.
blank. Yeah,
Do
like
you remember what you covered today?
Holy crap, do I?
Yeah. You think
Yes.
about it. Go
What
ahead.
did we cover today? First we covered, we covered the fact that, J.K. Rowling is like people are mad at J.K. Rowling because she's like the executive producer on a new Harry Potter television show, which
Oh,
is
because of the
hilarious.
trans stuff? They're still mad about
They're
that?
still mad about that. So like it's just really funny that they would be mad at her for being a producer on her own product. And they really I it is always funny to go back and look at these people who are like it's this weird kind of dissonance where these people they simultaneously made Harry Potter like their entire identity for like a decade and now they hate her. So it's like they're
Uh-huh.
struggling with the fact that they hate her but they love what she created, and watching
Mhm.
them fight with themselves about that is always really really interesting. Other than that, we ended up covering a couple of stories. We covered another story about like the topic of Gen Z and aging and whether they're aging faster than previous generations. And
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up.
yeah,
I'm gonna let you finish, as Kanye
yep.
would say. But okay, so this story though, to kind of set it up for people, there was an article. I can't remember, was it Daily Mail or whatever, and it was asking. It was this like headline article on Daily Mail, and it was asking why is it that Gen Z they are aging worse than the millennials? And I don't agree with the concept. I understand that people are getting plastic surgery now at a younger
Mhm.
age, but like the pictures that they showed us, like, it was like Billie Eilish. I mean, she always looks rough, like, comparing her to, like, Taylor Swift, and it's like I just it would seem
Mhm.
stupid to me. What's your opinion? Do you think they're aging worse?
The people we talked about today, it was more about like people on social media were posting about this. It was this one video of this girl who's like, somebody just asked me if I was in my late 30s, and she's like, I'm 23. And to be fair, she probably looked about 30, but she was
Mhm,
dressing, she was going for like an older aesthetic. And
mhm.
also like social media isn't always like whether you're using filters or whatever it is, like what you look like in person is very different most of the time from how a
Right.
person actually looks in the real world.
Yes.
And then another video is somebody basically saying the same thing, and they're not really attributing it to plastic surgery. They seem to be attributing it to basically Gen Z being like depressed and narcissist. Like
Ah.
Mary posits depression, and I posit a little bit of. I still think that social media has done this to a lot of people. I think people are kind of bombarded by internet fear porn 27, and we're also more
Uh-huh.
narcissistic than we've ever been, given our phones and how much we tend to. I was explaining. I was like, look, when you were young, at least when I was young, it's not like you ever looked at yourself or saw yourself all that often. Maybe, when you got up in the morning, you were getting ready for the day and you wash your face and you brush your teeth and you look in the mirror. Maybe at school, you go to the bathroom and you wash your hands and you look in the mirror. But in general, it's like now you look at yourself so much throughout the day in your phone. Not everyone, but a lot
Interesting. No, no, I
a lot of people,
understand.
whether you're reposting stuff that you've said on social media, whether you're looking at your own Instagram page after you post something, you see yourself now a lot more than people did back in the day. And no wonder people are feeling a little bit, anal retentive about how they look.
Right, right. Well, I think a there's been a definite increase in pressure, I think, aesthetically and especially on movie stars, right, or celebrities. Like, I was having this conversation the other day with someone. When you look at the men, let's use because we're always using women as examples. Let's think about men for a minute. When you look at the big male stars who are considered hunks in the mid 20th century, we're talking about people like, Rock Hudson. I know he turned out to be gay, right? But hunky regardless. But like a guy, Rock Hudson, Kirk Douglas, Spartacus, Richard Burton, sexy guy that ended up with Liz Taylor and all these in his younger years. And you know what? They all had these stomachs that they sucked in. If you look at them, you don't
Yeah.
see an ab in sight. And compare that to the expectations today that even older, actors or Brad Pitt, who looks amazing, but he's starting to get older, but like they pull up the shirt and you see the six pack or the 20 pack or whatever.
You go look if you go watch like your average network television show, and the male actors are in better shape than 90% of the planet, right? They just are. It's You're in a visual medium. It's
Right.
part of your job to be
Right.
aesthetically. There's a
Right.
there's a great video. I don't know if you've ever watched like Honest Trailers or
I
Everything
have
Wrong with
seen a
videos.
bit
Okay,
of
so
them, some
they
of them.
they do one for Ghostbusters where they put all four of the Ghostbusters side by side, and
Seen
it's
it.
just these dumpy looking actors, and says this is what passed for a movie star in the 80s. And that is in a lot of ways true. And I remember
That's
somebody telling
funny.
me this story about how back in the 90s, Tom Cruise would give advice. He says, look, he goes, it's got nothing to do with your profession, but it's got everything to do with your profession. You gotta take care of your physical appearance. It's important.
Tom
You're in a
knew. Was that
visual meeting. He's like, yeah, you gotta work out, you gotta eat right. It's not just about your physical appearance on camera, but if you feel like, if you look good, you're gonna feel good. If you take care of yourself, you're gonna feel better. Confidence is key. Confidence is important. All of that stuff matters. And for most of these actors, like this is why when we covered Mean Girls, it was so funny because like we talk about how when women take these roles, like they don't feel like they need to change how they look to do these roles they're in. But the men, whenever they get these superhero roles, they just get into just insane shape
Yeah,
because
they
they
take
take it as a
steroids and stuff.
challenge. They take it as,
HGH and steroids, I think. But
yeah,
go
or
on.
TRT and a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
that. And they use their, they use their Hollywood shortcuts to do it. But the point is, like, there's this story from that Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie told once where they were filming these scenes in like Captain America Civil War. And in this, there's this scene in Captain America Civil War where Chris Evans as Captain America literally stops a helicopter with his bare hands, and he holds the building. And the point is like as he's flexing, his muscles are like exploding out of his shirt. And what he's saying is like he was literally lifting right before the take. Like he was
So it would
lifting to
be it
get a
would look
pump.
as good.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
I
point
see
is
that.
that that amount of work,
Yeah.
that goes into doing just do your job. The show Reacher has this actor Alan Richson who's been big in the news lately because there was a topic going around about women debating like, is this attractive? Because the dude is just
He's so stacked.
gigantic. He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
gigantic.
What's his name? I'll
And
look him up.
Alan Richson.
Okay. You keep going, though.
Um, and it's interesting because the women are affirmed and said you're fine just the way you are. You don't need to change anything because it would be sexist for you to have to look a certain way. But the
Mhm.
men are told they have to look a certain way, and they take it as a challenge. And I think both sides
Right,
should take it as a challenge.
that's a
But
good point.
feminist ideology and the current what's what in Hollywood just doesn't dictate that to be true.
Um, let's see. No, I agree with you. Hold on, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
get a picture for people to see here. Share
There
screen.
was like this one particular photo from season 2 where he's shirtless, and they're
Yeah, because
just,
I was
yeah,
gonna say some of
it's
these
one
are
of the,
probably
yeah,
at different stages or whatever, but like
yeah,
but there's definitely, I mean, there's always been this debate about how, because
yeah,
women have different opinions. Like, there are some women who would, I think, probably, like, if it were muscles, like,
mhm,
would not have an upper range. And then a lot of women I know, and I'm one of these who tends to like prefer a leaner, like a muscles, but a much leaner sort of like soccer player or something,
yeah,
physique or something like that, like the guy that I'm with. Um, so, and then there's a lot of people who don't, they're more just into the face, or they're into the
yeah,
voice. Like, everybody, is, and I think personality is the thing that really sets things off. The way that I think about attractiveness is that, um, everybody has a certain threshold for which, like, after that, it's like, okay, they're cute to me, or they're attracted to me, or we have some chemistry, and then other things become
important,
interesting.
yeah,
And so that's why, like, I tell people sometimes, like, I've had some friends throughout the years, a couple of them who talked about, like, because they were very physically unattractive women, and they talked about how it was so discouraging, and I'm not going to find a man and all of that. And what I would say to them is like, well, of course you are, and of course it ended up happening. And they actually ended up with
yeah.
guys, in both of their cases, who were actually really attractive guys. But I guess,
I always point that out, and I'm always told I'm crazy. I'm like, look,
no, there are a lot of
the
mismatched
girls, those
couples.
girls will always end up with. At least that was what I always saw in any job that I ever had, was that a girl who was not something that I would have considered attractive would always be with a guy that was like, seemed like they were punching above their weight class. But what do I
Yeah,
know?
and I see it happening that way and the other way
Yeah.
as well.
Mm.
Okay, so I feel like I took us, like, way off track from what you were trying to say, but let me ask you, did you see the picture, of Erin is it Erin Moriarty, that,
Mhm.
Royce Lopez put up? Am I
Yeah.
saying her name right? Okay, I am gonna find that one because it was a before and after. She's from The Boys, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
tell
she
people
is.
what that is and what she is in it, and I'm gonna find this.
It's an Amazon Prime show. It's a superhero-esque show, but not superheroes. It's what would happen if all the superheroes you knew were shitheads. But it's an interesting photo because she is so young, right? She's in her mid 20.
Here
I,
it
I
is, I
could be
found the
I could be wrong about
tweet,
that. But
yeah.
the
No, keep
point
going.
is she was beautiful beforehand, and she didn't need the plastic surgery. And loath as I am, look, it's not my job to tell you how to live your life, but it is an
Mhm.
interesting, like, I'm not here to tell her that what, because she looked great
Here we go.
before. She looked great before, and she certainly looks like something different now. And I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but I do find it to be an interesting societal discussion about what has gotten us as a society to be so into the idea of changing how we look.
Yeah, so Brett, I feel like I have a particularly maybe or how do I put this? I think that I have an interesting perspective on this plastic surgery stuff because my father-in-law, so to speak, sort of father-in-law, my partner's dad, he owns a skin spa, right? And so
Okay.
they do he's a doctor, and so they do Botox, they do fillers, but they also do the kinds of things, the interventions that I like, such as laser stuff, and they sell like legit products, retinoids, stem cell creams, and things like that. And so here's where I'm kind of conflicted. You can tell me what you think. I feel like it is inevitable as technology increases or gets more and more sophisticated and all kinds of medical interventions and cosmetic interventions get more and more sophisticated. I think that it is just inevitable that people both externally and internally will be able, like that Brian Johnson, guy is trying to do, will be able to keep themselves younger for longer. And so and I tell you just firsthand, I haven't had Botox or fillers. I haven't started doing that yet, but I will one day. And I think that that kind of stuff can be done where it looks really good and it does look natural. And here's the problem though. And so this is where my conflict comes in, is that I also think that it's really hard for people to stop themselves or
Yeah.
to keep their perspective. And so like this Erin Moriarty girl that we're seeing, woman here that we're seeing, she did look better initially. And so I don't know. I do feel like there are a lot of people that go overboard, and I do feel like it's not a healthy thing necessarily psychologically. So I don't know.
It says she's 30, so she's almost 30, so she's born in 94.
Yeah.
Like, look, do what you want to do. I'm more interested in why culture is doing that. It's a little bit different when it's Hollywood because look, these are actors, these are people who are front-facing celebrities. Their job is to be on screen. So there's bound to be a little bit more of an issue with it for them, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And it's kind of interesting because she was such a pretty she's so pretty before, like, it
Yeah,
didn't
it
seem
was
necessary,
not
but also it's not lot like these types of issues when you do go too far. Again, I don't know how much work she's had done. I mean, her
right.
nose clearly, but like, again, I don't know how much work she's had done, but it is interesting that once you start doing it, it's very hard for some people to stop. And that's got to be a specific type of hell that I definitely have some sympathy for, some empathy for, that like to never to look in the mirror and never be 100% satisfied with how you look. So, you know.
Right, and so to the extent that this kind of stuff that cosmetic, interventions and plastic surgeons and dermatologists and stuff, to the extent that they are reinforcing or creating this kind of obsessiveness, on the part of people about their appearance and the things that people are doing to themselves, like I do think that it's unfortunate. And then on the other hand, I see it as inevitable that people are just going to increasingly, as it becomes more available, they're going to, as long as we appreciate youth in our society. People are going to want to look and feel younger and all of that. You look at someone like J Lo, for instance. Here, let me take Aaron off the screen now. You look at someone like J Lo, for instance, or I mean, there's lots of other examples I could come up with. Rachel Weisz is another one, but there are a lot of women who are. There's just no way in hell that at their age they naturally look the way that they look. And so, like, you look at that and you think, well, it looks good for them and it does look natural. And so, but on the other hand, you look at someone like Erin Moriarty. So I don't know.
Look up Jennifer Beals. That's the example I always give.
Okay,
Jennifer
do it right now.
Beals. She's 61 and she looks absolutely gorgeous for her age.
Wow, she's
She
61,
she
huh? All right.
doesn't look like she's had a whole lot of work done. There's
But that's
also
the thing, that's
the
when they've had it done well. That's what I'm
That's well,
trying
that's
to
what I'm
say.
saying. But no, but here's the thing though. Like
Here,
if
hold on.
you go look at her Instagram page and you go look at like videos that she makes just filming on her phone, where
Uh-huh.
she's not wearing a ton of makeup. She looks very good for her age. Or the lead singer of the Bangles. But yeah, like she's 61 now and she's absolutely gorgeous. Or she's 60. I'm sorry, I think
Another
she's
one that
60.
I think is, we could just do this
Mm.
all day, but, like, the Queen of Jordan has been in the news a lot, and I don't wanna get into all of that, but, like, this woman is 53 years old, and, you look at, I mean, these are like, you look at, like, these are pretty recent photos of her, and
Yeah.
it's just like, and obviously, I know I'm not looking at a natural face there, but I mean, so I don't know. It's something that I actually wanna talk about more on my channel as I go more into middle age, because people will say to me a lot, "Oh, you look so much younger than you are," and some of that honestly is genetics in my case. I'm
Yeah.
just lucky in that way, not lucky in some other ways. I've talked about I have a genetic stomach disorder that makes me just nauseated all the time, basically. And so, but we've all got positives and negatives on our hands that we've been dealt. And so I have not had to so my mom is like, she's in her 70s and she could still pass for late 40s. And so that's part of that. But I do see
How old do people usually think you are?
in person younger than on YouTube, actually. And so I think and it always sounds so narcissistic to talk about stuff like this, like, oh, I look so much younger than I am.
Well,
But
I asked
you
how
do
old
too, I feel like. So
how old do they
I'm 43, and
yeah,
people, I think online, people tend to think that I'm maybe like early 30s,
there
but
you go.
and some later 30s or whatever. But in person, for whatever reason, I do look younger, and so I still have people sometimes thinking that I'm like barely drinking age or whatever.
Let's go. That's a
So
huge compliment.
yes, but here's the thing, I do also do a lot of stuff to my skin, and so I do get regular laser stuff, and I do use, I mean, I sound like I'm doing a commercial, but I use, fairly expensive sourced stem cell creams, and things that, and then Retin-A, which are, retinoids are still basically one of the most powerful things you can do for your skin, but, like, if I didn't do those things, I'd probably look 5 years older or something. So there's a part of me that wants to tell people, hey, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and it's really not that expensive. Even the laser stuff, if you only get it done once a year, even, it's very helpful. And so I want to tell people, like, you can do these things, but then on the other hand, I'm like, no, people should feel good about how they look. So I don't know. I'm always going back and forth in my head on that one.
As long as the options are there, people are gonna do it. So, but like the other thing is like they're starting younger and younger now, which I think is gonna contribute a lot to it. That like the reason that so many millennial like we were basically saying that the reason so many millennials look younger is because even if they're getting Botox, they didn't start till they were in their 30s. A lot of people in Gen Z are getting it in their 20s, and it's just not necessary yet.
Yes, I totally agree. And I've actually, on the other end, and Josh, I just want to
Josh
say,
is correct about Jennifer Connelly.
I just want to say, I'm like 99% sure that probably they've had a lot of stuff done. That's what I'm saying, is like and I hear this too from people who are connected. They're like, almost everybody's having stuff done. Again, not judging that. Um, but you mentioned something. I'm sorry, Brett. What was the last thing you said? I got all into Josh's comment and then I forgot.
They're starting to have these procedures done
Yes.
younger.
I'm totally against Botox and fillers before you really need them,
Yeah.
because here's the thing that people don't like. Look, there's two different classifications of interventions. There's the stuff that I'm getting, which is laser stuff and using some selected topical creams.
Yeah.
That stuff, yes, it's helping your face in various ways, but it is not, you're not injecting like a foreign substance
Isn't
into your
botulism
skin.
the deadliest toxin known to man too, as far as I know?
I mean, yes, I don't want to be an alarmist because no one's saying that you can die you're gonna die of poisoning. But I'm just saying, I feel like there actually could be a lot of side effects that we're not seeing, and there's stuff that's been documented too, actually in research. For instance, the fillers that are supposed to completely dissolve, but surprise, surprise, actually may not completely dissolve or may stay there much longer than you think. Or here's the other thing, you know, once you paralyze a muscle enough, like with Botox, or once you put a foreign substance into your face and kind of puff it up enough, the composition of the face then, or the muscles, they're going to change to some degree, because it's kind of like tolerance with drugs or whatever, right? There's going to be some
Yeah.
change in reaction. So I'm just very leery of doing that stuff. But that's not to say that whenever I wake up one day and this is maybe just my weakness coming into it, but if I wake up and I see a lot of jowls hanging or a lot of like stuff, I'm probably going to weaken and do it. So I don't know, people.
Luckily, I'm a guy, so I don't have to worry about that.
But it's not just, but it is now. I'm not telling you to worry. I'm just saying
I'm
there
a
are people
guy,
who
so like if I once I get the jowls or the jowls get worse, people will just accept that as my natural physiognomy. It'll be great.
Well, you're definitely correct that it is less of a concern. Well, people
Yeah.
are asking, or at least one or two of you are asking for skin recommendations, like what creams do I use and stuff. And so I'm not gonna torture some of this any longer, but I do have a video, and I'll give you a link to it. Um, and the video acoustics, I'm sorry, are not good. I was in a bathroom with lots of reverberation. So, I mean, you can hear what I'm saying, but it's just a little bit annoying. But someday I'll make a follow up to this. So anyway, if you want to know in detail what are my recommendations, and these are, by the way, things that I've come to not only from research on my own, but also from my dermatologist, sort of father-in-law, who's been at the cutting edge of this stuff. Like, he'll
Yeah.
start doing things in his office before even at times the Hollywood people are. So anyway, okay, here we go. So I'm putting it up here, and if you want to too, you can just Google Colonel Kurtz skincare
There
tip,
you go.
or what have you. And so, anyways, yeah. So Erin Moriarty, we talked about her. What else? Anything else?
We talked about this absolutely ridiculous story about this influencer who made she made her boyfriend cinnamon rolls, and the internet got very upset about it because patriarchy, and because she's promoting an unrealistic lifestyle because she's married to her name is Nara Smith. And
Okay.
she's a retired model who's married to a model who's like one of the biggest male models in the world, I guess. And the
Okay.
video was
Where is
her
this? America?
making
Or
no, I
oh,
believe so. Yeah, I
okay.
believe so.
Okay. I never heard of these people, but anyway.
They're Mormon. They're Mormon. They're expecting their third kid, and people are just. Do you know what Ballerina Farms is, or anything to do with that stuff? Mary knows all about this stuff, but basically the idea is these are women that are kind of living this very traditional lifestyle. And a lot of people don't like it because they think it promotes kind of like an unrealistic idea of what it means to be like a stay-at-home mom. Because in this case, like the lady who runs Ballerina Farms, her husband is heir to like an airline fortune. He owns like his family owns like JetBlue or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of it is cope from a lot of people who are just jealous of the fact that this lady is, living a life that she does. And
That's so ridiculous.
some of it is
That is so
feminist
ridiculous.
ideology of people who don't like the idea that they're stay-at-home moms and all this other stuff. And I'm always kind of a passive and an outsider when it comes to these topics, just because it tends to be a woman's sphere, and I don't have the strongest opinions on it because it's not really marketed towards me anyways.
I
But
understand that.
we also talked about Sports Illustrated laying off all their workers, and what brought about the
Oh,
fact
yes,
that they
because they went woke too, right? And they were putting, like,
yeah.
men and overweight women on the covers of their swimsuit issues, right?
The discussion is kind of becoming, did they as much as I hate the term "get woke and go broke," or was it actually more that they were already failing and went woke as like a Hail Mary pass to try and save their brand? What
Mm,
was it? And
I see, okay.
yeah, you go back through, and it could be that. Sure, certainly it could be the fact that they were promoting less than traditional, beauty standards for their models, or it could be that print is dying.
Mhm,
And you can look at all sorts of hot women on the internet for free. And
mhm.
you have Instagram now. You don't need to buy a Sports Illustrated
True.
swimsuit
Yeah, I mean, all of
calendar.
that,
So
like, it's like Playboy or whatever, so it's so antiquated, so I know
yeah.
I could see that. I could see that it could just be a natural
Yeah.
drop off as well.
I think both of those play a role. I think it's probably true that the brands were failing, and then they thought that this inclusion of this ridiculous ideology of these things that have nothing to do with with swimsuit models, uh, they thought that that was going to help them when everyone knows that it's just not going to.
Right. No, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
What other business failures have we seen in the last year or so kind of related to or that were blamed on well, Bud Light, Budweiser, right, was the big one, blamed on their
Target.
own
I mean,
woke.
I didn't really think Target suffered as much as Bud Light did. I think that that's pretty clear. But we're looking at Hollywood now with massive layoffs across the board at every
Mhm,
company. Spotify had layoffs. Disney has had endless layoffs. There was just more layoffs announced for Paramount today.
mhm.
When David Zaslav took over at Warner Brothers, his job was to cut 7 billion in fat off the company. So
7,000,000,000?
yeah.
That's a lot. Okay.
So these companies, they're paying the price for an oversaturated market, a heavily based ideological system for their material. There's just a lot going on all of these industries that basically all boil down to a very expensive way of the audience and the consumers saying we don't want it.
Hmm. Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, we'll talk a bit about a few things I have, and then we'll take a short break. But I wanted I wanted to ask you kind of as somebody who you've not been following the Rammstein controversy much, have you?
No,
The
I see your posts when you make them. I do see
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
so you probably saw that I posted this, and I'm just curious what you think about this. So this is a German
Can't
feminist.
believe you were allowed to show titties on Instagram. I thought that
Well,
was gonna get
this
banned.
might get me in trouble with
I
YouTube,
would be
so
I would be careful
maybe I
about
should.
posting that on
Okay, well, let me just
YouTube.
describe it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Let me just describe it then. So, those of you who watch my channel, you know that I've been covering the German band Rammstein, just in terms of the Me Too allegations against them. The long story short, if you haven't been following it, the European media and European extreme left politicians and feminists, but not just extreme left, even feminists in their more moderate party, have been trying to get Rammstein. It's probably one of the most famous European bands that's
Yeah.
ever existed, even people who don't like the music outside of America. People don't know them so much in America, although a lot of you probably heard the song Du Hast.
That was
Uh,
very big back in the day.
yeah, so, German guys, Du hast
Mm.
mich, whatever. It's a great song. But they are huge in Europe, and they probably put on the most, the most, I think, big time impressive pyrotechnic show of
Mhm.
almost any band, like, I think better even than, like, Metallica or something, I don't know. Anyway, point is, European politicians and European feminists and the media have been trying to get these guys, particularly focusing on Till Lindemann, the lead singer, and they were not able to, and they failed, and because it was bullshit. Well, here's the thing, and even the allegations themselves, apart from like, did it happen or didn't it happen?
Yeah.
Like even the things that they were accused of were nothing. It's like even if 90% of this happened, it's just ridiculous. Well, here's the thing. I thought that a lot of us who've been supporting this group through this thought that this was over. And lead singer Till Lindemann even posted something, a poem on his Instagram, his official Instagram, or it was posted, basically saying, "You failed." And you could say, kind of maybe reveling in the fact that they hadn't been able to get him. Well, then on the heels of that, now it seems like the last 2 weeks, there have been various outlets publishing anti Rammstein, anti Till stuff. And so this one picture this German feminist group put up, and you can go to my Twitter, you can go to my Instagram if you want
Yeah,
to
I
see.
wouldn't post it on here.
I'm not going to.
It would probably
Yeah, no,
get you struck.
you're right, but here's the image, I'll just tell you. So, it's a takeoff of Kill Bill, the Tarantino movie, and so it's got a woman who has a sword, just like the Uma Thurman character had a sword that she'd kill people with, right? And the woman is shirtless in this. It's a brunette woman, topless, so you see her boobs, and on her boobs and she's holding this sword, and there's all this blood coming out of the sword or behind the sword, so she's just killed someone, right? And on her chest it says dead men don't rape. In other words, you need to kill a guy so he won't rape. And then really, really big, it says kill Till as a takeoff of Kill Bill, but it's
Yeah.
kill, it's Till Lindemann. And you might say, oh, well, it's just, it's just kind of a funny wink at the movie Kill Bill. But then it was accompanied by this really long caption, this really long write up, pages of it. You had to scroll through several pages in which they actually argued that society needs to eliminate Till Lindemann and those like him. And this is like I don't want to say like it's totally mainstream, but this is not
This is a
some.
very mainstream take now. The
It,
idea, like we definitely live in an age now where I think where people believe that even a murderer can be rehabilitated, but it's not an uncommon thing for people to believe that no, sex crimes are of a different caliber, and that there is no forgiveness for sex crimes, which is a very, very understandable take from a
and
lot of people. So,
what really gets
yeah,
me, and I think that's interesting what you're saying there, but what really gets me is that in the write up, they don't even accuse
yeah,
Lindemann or the band of actual assault. What they say is, they literally say it in this write-up here, next to Kill Till. They say that it's systemic coercion where women are put into a situation to be propositioned by such a powerful man. And so they're not even trying to
yeah,
suggest that it was non-consensual. They are saying that it's even wrong to be propositioned by a much more powerful man, much less to feel any kind of like social pressure about it, and that therefore this Lindemann guy needs to be killed.
yeah.
And look, you might say, well, there's all kinds, or someone might say, well, there's all kinds of just quacks on the internet. What do you care? But this is actually a not insignificant German feminist organization. It was two of them who put the same thing up. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, and it's like you said, no accusations of actual crime. Just a lot of it is also though that the idea of power dynamics is very big in the culture right now, and that plays a huge role. There was also stories that have been going out recently about Hugh Hefner and what they call as Hugh Hefner being emotionally abusive,
Tell
which
me
would
more about that,
they
because there's
never. It's just it's Kendra Wilkinson and a couple of the other women that were involved
Crystal,
with
his ex-wife, right?
Crystal Hefner
Right.
talking about like, look, he was emotionally abusive. They never actually detail what that means most of the time, and a lot of them they basically they were paid to live this life when they were in their 20s, and
Mhm,
now they look
mhm.
back on it with regret, and
Right.
unfortunately now they look back on regret as a form of subtle coercion, which we all know that you're an adult, you have to make your choices. um
Right.
this is with the musicians and stuff like that, and with somebody like Hugh Hefner, a lot of it is like for a Crystal Hefner, it's about, she's got a book to sell now, she's got her own
Right.
thing, right? Though I did in relation to Till, I did see something the other day where like a death metal band, like a black metal band, apologized for having a severed pig's head on stage, and I'm like, what is the world coming to where black
I
metal
get it.
bands are
No, no, I mean
apologizing for doing black metal things?
I know. I'm right
It's
there
just
with you.
sad.
It is definitely a different time. And
It's
let me
just
say about
sad.
Hugh Hefner, I think that in a number of ways, people like to just to throw the term creep around. I think the guy was a creep in a number of ways, and I do think that he possibly um did abet or was an accomplice to Bill Cosby drugging and raping some women. So I don't. I actually want to say on Hugh Hefner that it would not surprise me if the man turned out to be despicable in a number of ways, and maybe even deserves disapproval or consequences if he were still alive. However, the problem is that 99 whatever percent of the allegations that are being made against him by all these women are not those things. And
Yeah.
it's like you said, Crystal Harris, I remember watching that show when she came on and when they got, they
Yeah.
got together initially, and like it was obvious, look, you're marrying like what, a 90-year-old man.
Yep.
And I mean, everybody knows what's going on here. So don't act like in some way you were like tricked or emotionally coerced or what have you. That's
What
just silly.
the number one thing that they always seem to say, or at least she said in the thing that I read, is that it said, I was being emotionally abused, but I didn't realize it until later.
Well, emotional abuse now seems to have been refashioned
Yes.
into the definition of it, refashioned into something that simply means an unpleasant experience, or an
Yes.
experience where maybe one person is exerting some emotional pressure on the other. But like, I really like Clementine Morgan's take on this. Do you know who Clementine Morgan
Mm-mm.
is?
No.
So she is a social media figure, and I think she writes on Substack, and she might do videos. I just follow her on Instagram because she has a lot of interesting, pithy comments. But she was talking about how she at one point thought that her ex-boyfriend had been abusive, because in her mind at that point, if you had a negative experience in a relationship, there had to be blame put somewhere else. They're paraphrasing
Yeah.
her, but there had to be some kind of blame for that, and especially on the other person. And so it's hard for people when they have those feelings to give it some kind of a name. And so abuse just seems so easy, basically, right? Like, oh, I felt like that relationship was really unpleasant. And in hindsight, I feel like they didn't behave in the best way toward me. How can I say that? Oh, it was abusive. It was emotionally abusive, right? And so there's a very fine line there between that and between experiences that people have where there really is emotional abuse going on. Like, I
Yeah.
grew up with two parents who had a very rocky relationship, and at times the things that my dad would say to my mom, it was emotionally abusive, and he would go after the kids too, to try to manipulate her, and like, oh, if I'm going after the kids, then she'll back down and all of that, like
Yeah.
a reign of terror in our house. And so anyway, I guess that, but I agree with you. I totally agree with your take on that.
Yeah, and also I look a lot of that as like it has less of an effect nowadays because when people read those stories, they're like, you don't say the 90-year-old Playboy guy wasn't necessarily a paragon of virtue and goodness, like shocking. And a lot of that also feels like
Right.
to me, and this is my own take on it. Like I feel like there's this concerted effort to kind of tear down all these things that were staples of American culture back in the day. And
Mhm.
Playboy was
Exactly.
it was such a huge part of American culture for such a long time that the idea that you can tear it down and reform what it meant to the culture
Right.
is very beneficial for certain people. So there's definitely a bonus for them to be able to publish stories like that. But I find those stories have less of bite than people would expect them to, because a lot of people are seeming like, look, you made your choices.
Right.
It-
People aren't
you made
stupid.
your choices. It would be fascinating if Anna Nicole was still alive to hear about how she looked at it, like with her
Yeah. Oh,
situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody, we are at the hour mark. I do like to take a break on this show, so to give Brett and I a moment to reset and, I don't know, do a line of Coke or whatever. No, no.
I
Brett has been
wish.
sober for many, many years.
I wish.
Notice that I just said Brett. No.
Yeah.
But I actually do need to get some water because I'm starting to get hoarse. I was sick last week, but thankfully I'm over
Yeah.
that. Okay, so we're gonna take a five-ish, 10, not up to 10, I don't know how long, but a break for a bit and come back. And then we're gonna go for like a half an hour here. And then I'm going to do a later night stream for my patrons because I haven't done anything on Patreon in a while. So I'm going to do like maybe 45 minutes, an hour over there for those of you who are my patrons. Brett, you have the option of coming over with me, but you don't have to because it's late. So, anyways, everybody, we'll be back though, all of us in 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
So hang tight, hold tight. Bye. I'll take you off the screen here, Brett. Just a second. Sorry. All right, here we go. We'll be back, everybody. Hey, so
Hello.
Brett, if you don't mind, I think you're going to take over for 5 minutes while I need to set up my Patreon stream for after. Is that cool?
Do you want to just wait? We can just wait.
Yeah, you don't want it. You could talk to the chat. It's up to you.
No, we
Chat.
can just wait. We can just
Okay,
wait.
I'll be back in a few minutes. It won't take that
Okay.
long. Okay.
All right.
All right, everybody. Sorry that took a bit longer.
Okay.
But
Wait. So
we're here.
let me get this straight. We were live when I said that.
Yeah, yeah, but you came across fine. No, you were just like, nah, I'd rather. That's okay.
I thought we were
Sorry though.
if you don't know how
Sorry.
like
I should have done
Streamlabs
that.
works, I thought we were backstage. I did not know
No.
we were live when we said that. Now they're pissed at me in the chat
No, they're
because they're like,
not. Are
"Oh, what are
they?
we, chopped liver?" Look,
Pretty
look.
funny.
Okay, I got asked. I was actually like, I ended up like talking to someone like right outside there. So I was like, I thought you might have to come back without me for a second there, but I was like, I gotta go. I'm doing something,
That's
and then I
funny.
come back. Yeah, sorry about that,
No,
chat.
not at all. You didn't, but you didn't come. That's the thing, though. That's why I didn't even say anything or like laugh. Is because you didn't come across as. It was just more like, yeah, I'd rather wait. I was fine with it. Yeah, it's funny
I was
though.
like, what am I gonna talk about for 5 minutes? I
Yeah,
don't
no, I
fucking
got
know.
well, and it's not your. I mean,
How
it's
about them? How about them Chiefs? How about the
what people don't understand too is like when it's not your show. I mean, technically, because it's not on your channel and
yeah.
whatever, it just feels. And it's not. I know that we have a number of your fans in here, but it's not. It just doesn't feel like I'm sure in some ways your audience.
Oh, I see people in the chat who are like, get off Kurtz's channel. And I'm like, bro, don't take it up with me. Take it up with her. If you want me off the channel, you better tell Colonel Kurtz about that, not me.
It's funny.
Don't tell me.
I need to grab a Kleenex. So, and in reality, I'm having a horrible allergy attack. I was complaining about it before we came on, but it's funny because I just made a Coke joke. I'll be right back.
She's secretly going to bump a line, guys. She's not actually going to get a Kleenex. She's going to partake. She's not actually going to do that. I just told everyone you were actually going to bump a line of Coke.
It's funny because I was thinking about Trump and like, do you remember when he did that one debate and then Carrie Fisher, was it Carrie Fisher who said, I know what Coke addiction looks like? And she said, that's what it is. I'm going to mute.
He's the biggest looking Coke addict I've ever seen. He'd be thinner if he was a Cokehead.
That's true too. That's funny. No, you
should have seen me in my drug addict days. Rail thin. I was runway model. Okay, maybe not runway model thin, but I was definitely not the size I am now.
I'm so happy for you. I saw a picture and I didn't notice. I mean, you'd aged some, but I didn't notice a difference. But I'm so happy for you that you seem so entirely past that point in your life. Good for you.
Yep. I wear baggy shirts though. Anyways, I wear big shirts, so you wouldn't have been able to tell. But yeah, like those were rough times, man.
Yeah, I remember you making a Requiem for the Dream, for a Dream reference the other day, which is and so good for you because that was so. How long have you been sober? How many years? I mean, approximately
6.
Okay, yeah, that's a long. I mean,
that's a long time. It would be way longer than that, but I had a couple of relapses in the early days that were that were not good. But yeah, and
you've been doing the skating. Remind me, how long have you been skating?
25 years.
Wow, that is so. And remind me again.
23 years.
How did you first get into it?
Started with people I played hockey with. I played sports growing up. I played baseball and I played hockey growing up. I still love those sports, but people got into skating and that was always more my speed because it was more of an individual activity rather than team sport. So, good times.
I think that, it's interesting about the question of individual versus teams, because I was someone who hated group work when I was in school. I hated being assigned to group work, and I felt like that was not a common feeling. I felt like most people actually preferred group work. And so when a teacher in a class would say, okay, we're going to be doing group assignments, I'd be like, oh, and everybody else, or a lot of people would be like, yeah. And it wasn't just because I felt like I was a better student than other people, but I feel like some people really do prefer group work, but I did not. And so I know what you mean about, about that feeling, that idea.
Yeah. The I didn't have a problem. I think I do believe that team sports, especially for boys, is a very good thing to take some time of your life to go and do. I think that learning, if more than just teamwork, but also like learning to have to do, you're not always going to be like, one of the things about skating is that like, you're only going to do it when you love it, right? You're only going to do it when you feel like doing it. Sports, that's not always an option. And one of the things that's good to learn is like, if you care about something, that sometimes you're going to have to do it when you're not in the mood to do so. So the idea that like, sometimes I would have to go to practice for hockey at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. when on a weekend, and not necessarily wanting to do that, but loving what you're doing in general, I think is an important skill to learn. And if not hockey, there's all sorts of sports that people do. And I think that would help a lot of ways for like you were talking about, sedentary lifestyle. And, people are less into athletics and you feel better about yourself when you are part of something and you work towards a goal.
Right. No, it's true. And I felt that way even being on a dance team or taking dance classes. That was actually an excellent form of socialization. And I know that a number of these things take money, and and I don't know to what extent one can be involved in these sorts of things without having the money for lessons, or I don't know. So that is a tough part of parenting, I think, is that
hockey wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
Hockey is one of the most expensive sports you can, and that was the thing. Like my family didn't make a ton of money. My dad worked for the government. My dad worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. And my mom was a social worker. So like, we didn't have a ton of money, but like my brother played baseball. I played hockey and baseball. So a lot of time was spent at the hockey rink, and a lot of money went into, ice time and equipment and all traveling to
Right.
tournaments and stuff like that. It's
Right.
expensive.
Right, and, I will say that, like, my dad, I certainly have and he's deceased, people know that, that's why I speak so openly about him, and basically all of his family, but he was emotionally abusive in a number of ways, and he had a lot of failures as a father. I'm ambivalent about him because, on the other hand, there were things that he did, such as paying for lots of different lessons. I
Yeah.
had had lots of dance lessons, different types of dance. I had all of the stuff that was required for the dance team at school. I had lessons at times in, like, gymnastics. I had voice lessons, like, whatever, and
Yeah.
whatever I wanted to do, I could do that, and I think about that, that's really something that I feel like is a burden for parents, perhaps of a certain perhaps particularly of a certain maybe class level where they feel like it's expected that they should be lavishing all these things on their kids. I don't know, it's a big sacrifice, right?
Yeah, and yeah, because it kind of becomes expected. Like in Minnesota, you're expected to play hockey in a lot of ways. It's expected that you're gonna, especially if you grow up in like the suburbs or whatever. And I grew up in a suburb called Woodbury, which was like Woodbury became like one of the fastest growing suburbs in the country at that time because 3M was the company 3M was like right outside. So a lot of
Okay.
people moved over there. We didn't come like we lived in the old part of Woodbury, right by the jail. There was like a workhouse there. Where people who had like DUIs and stuff went to do weekend jail, or people, it was like, like a very small workhouse. So we
Okay.
grew up in the poor area, like not the poor, but the lower class area of Woodbury. And then there's the rich side that was on the whole other side of the city, which was all built after the time that we had moved there. So you're expected to be in the same activities as those with money, and that can be a burden on
Yeah,
the families
yeah,
of the people who live there.
yeah. Yeah, I think school, particularly, well, I don't know, I was gonna say particularly public school, but I guess, like, actually all schools, I think that's a time where you do experience some social difficulties that come with class difference, and it's interesting because I feel like that was really the last time in my life when I felt not only conscious of class differences of, like, oh, this person or this group of people has a lot more money or less money or what have you, but also where I felt some kind of pressure about it, like, oh, do I have a brand name purse and
Yeah.
things like that. And really that went away. I felt like when I got into college and grew up and became adults, I think life just gets more serious and people just grow the fuck
Mm.
up, about
The
stuff like that.
I was very lucky because I found skating, and like sports like skating, it becomes a subculture and a community into it, like in and of itself. So I was very disinterested in
Right.
everything to do with my school experience. Everything in my life at that time revolved around skating. I thought about it 24/7. So
Interesting.
I didn't think about the people I went to school with. Only a couple of the people that I went to school with even kept skating after the first couple of years. So
Mhm.
I did not quit the hobby and keep the friends. I moved on to find new friends who were into the sport, that were, that loved it as much as I did. So I was so focused on life outside of school that I never really thought about class structure or the haves and the have-nots or anything like that. I had friends at school, but I never looked at the rich kids as I also make this comment, and I get kind of pushed back for this sometimes. Like, I understand that bullying was like a thing for a lot of people in schools. I don't
Mhm.
remember anything like I'm sure it
That's
happened,
great though
but
if you
I
didn't have
don't
those
and
experiences.
but I wasn't like one of the cool kids. I would be willing to bet that most of the people probably don't even remember me, and I was completely okay with that because I don't remember most of them. Like I
Mhm.
haven't gone to like I would have been my 20-year reunion would be coming up here in next year, and I'm not going to go because I have
Mhm.
no attachment to my life
Mhm.
in high school. It just never really mattered to me all that much. So I laugh at the idea of the people that like take such a serious tone to like what life was like for them in high school, be it the people who it really sucked for, or the people who like they relive those glory
So
days over
so
and
let me
over again.
say that's interesting. Well, that's an interesting point, and something we could probably explore more at a later time because I feel, conflicted about that, that on the one hand, um Is it like life or death stakes, or was it really in hindsight? Was it really that big of a deal, or was that really that bullying, what have you? Was it really that severe? And yet, on the other hand, I will say that if you haven't experienced that as a child,
Mhm,
I think the problem would be perhaps in taking your adult capacity to deal with such situations,
mhm.
or the idea of that, or what we face, on a daily basis sometimes with what we do online,
Yeah.
and then imagining that you would have felt the same way or held up this similarly, as a child. So I was, when I was younger, for a time, I would say mildly bullied, and I don't like the term either, but mildly bullied is shorthand for people understand. And I was until graduate school, honestly, but certainly until college, I was really a misfit. I was this like dorky, geeky, kind of annoying kid. And some people say, "Oh, so you're the same," but no, but seriously. And so I found it to be kind of nightmarish, Brett, especially put together with what was going on with my parents at times. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. This is the thing that I think is really hard about growing up in a dysfunctional family, and I know that's half of us or more grew up in something
Yeah.
dysfunctional, is that you're trapped with these people. And that's what I love about Stephen King. Like, I think he's long-winded and whatever and needs a better editor. He goes off on these tangents sometimes, but his focus on the horrors within families, I
Mhm.
think, is really interesting. And so I remember childhood, unfortunately, in a lot of negative ways because I was like trapped with these people at home and then also trapped with these people at school.
Yeah.
But God bless you if you had a good experience with either or both of those, because that's how it should be. Like, it should be that way.
I mean, like, I don't really think of it as, like, good or bad. I just think of it as, like, I got very lucky to like, my
Yeah.
parents separated when I was going into 7th grade, and, like,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I feel like if I and my mom got sick shortly thereafter, and remember, I don't know if I told you, but my mom was sick almost my entire adult life. Like, she
Yes.
went into the hospital, like, the day I started, high school. She did not
Yeah.
get out until the week I graduated. She made it out in time, and she couldn't walk after that, and I essentially
So
became
you had,
her.
like, bigger things going on
Yeah,
too.
like, so but, like, to me,
Yeah.
I got very lucky that when she fell ill, or, like, when my parents got divorced or separated, I had skating, so I just didn't really like, again, like, I was lucky to have something that I cared so much
Coping
about that
mechanism.
I didn't really have to think about it
Yeah.
in that context. Like, I watch a lot of media, just like with bullying, and I watch a lot of media about, like, the horrors of divorce, and certainly movies and television focused a lot on how divorce affected, the middle class suburb, the
Right.
kids of the middle class suburban families a lot, in especially in the early 2000s. And it was just like I never had that resentment towards anyone. I was just, maybe I was just narcissistic, but
No, you're not
I
narcissistic.
was just kind of off in my own world. And whatever came, like, I used to make a joke. I was like, look, I was like, I got lucky when my parents split up. Like, they didn't get divorced until after my mom got out of the hospital, because there was just no way to go through with any of that. I was very lucky. Like, when my mom was mad at me, I went and stayed with my dad. When my dad was mad at me, I went and stayed with my mom. And I just like I never thought of it in that
Do you
negative
think that
context.
maybe that was a good coping mechanism on your part that
Ha-
becau
Having skating.
well,
Yeah.
skating, but
Yeah.
just you were talking about how you feel like you were
Yeah.
surprisingly, you just kind of were able to go along and kind of felt detached, or seemed kind of detached from it?
I feel like that about just about honestly just about everything. Like, for most things, like, I don't have like visceral reactions to any of, like, even to like years of like fucking up my own life with drugs and stuff like that. I kind of look at it more as like, where am I now and how far have I come, rather
Mhm.
than everything that, like I said, like, I assume that by this age, I'm 37, I figured I'd be dead by now. The fact that I'm not, everything after that age, like when I first fucked my life up, everything after that is just, bonus levels. Like, I'm just very lucky. So focusing on the negatives, or all of and I think that this is one of those things that a lot of people, like, it makes life harder for people when they focus their life on the grievances or the things that are wrong.
Mm.
Like, everyone has a right to do that, and everyone's different, but I feel like I'm almost blessed to not have to think about the world that way. And that doesn't make me feel like those other people are wrong. It just makes me feel a little bit worse for them that they see the world that way, because it's a valid way of thinking and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like I've kind of been given a bit of a cheat code to be able to deal with things by being fairly detached to a lot of that stuff.
Well, I think that it's interesting to look at your life trajectory and see that you really, up until a few years ago, like when did you join Timcast?
2021.
Yeah, so
2021.
you
Yeah.
have so it's interesting to me how you have really I see these different just from not even knowing you super well, but seeing these different developmental stages and like for you, I think it is so cool when people get to their 30s or when they get into like middle age like I did where it was like you get an opportunity and you take it even though you don't know where it's going and it turns out to be something that's really a blessing like I
Yeah.
so like with you that you were and I know that you had gotten sober long before
Yeah.
the Tim thing, right, came along, but, like, your life, like, took all of these different twists and turns, and then you got on this amazing track with this channel that's really growing, and I don't know, I just
Mhm.
think it's really cool, and for me, you know, it did take a bit of courage, I don't brag about it on my channel or whatever, but it did take a bit of courage to say, "I'm not going to seek academic employment anymore
Yeah,
because I
that's a very difficult thing for you to do, I bet.
it was
Me and
because I
Shane talked about that.
we
Yeah.
did, because in my situation, like, I knew that I could get a decent enough job, like, it wasn't gonna be tenure track because the job that I'd had wasn't tenure track, but when they let a number of us go, after the COVID thing, like, I could have gotten a comparable job somewhere else, and I
Yeah.
also knew too that in getting into the things that I was getting into on my YouTube channel, which I actually started when I was still, employed as a professor,
Yeah.
I knew that talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and talking about Marilyn Manson and talking about all the stuff that I talk about or a lot of stuff I talk about, even just
Me
even
too in general.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Even just some of the political or comments that people see as being political, that sort of thing. I knew that all of that could hurt me, particularly how academia was and continues to be. And so my point is not to say, oh, whoa, I was so brave. But what I'm trying to say
That was
is,
brave. That was a very brave
well,
thing to do.
thank you. But and of course it was out of self-interest. But this is what I want to say to people is like, of course, I know I don't know what it's like to have the responsibilities of, for instance, being a parent, and I know that being a parent and certain financial constraints or whatever, they can be so limiting. So I would never want to judge anyone or even say what anyone should do in their own circumstance. But I would just say that when I look at someone like you, for instance, your life, I just think it is really cool to see where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this YouTube thing,
Yeah.
or yeah, Tim, someone overheard you doing a monologue or something, right, in the shower,
Oh,
or what's the story?
so I was hired to do camera work. I was doing behind the scenes stuff for one of the other channels here, and then
Okay.
no, I was ranting about something to do with the X Files, I think, and he asked me to start this channel. But I have a question: would you ever go back to academia if conditions changed?
I don't know, like maybe, there's something kind of like that I don't take pleasure in saying because it makes me sound kind of bad, but there's also another reason why I decided to not seek further employment in academia, and that is that, and I hate to say this because it sounds so bad, but honestly, being a teacher can be really boring. It can be. I hate to admit it, but if you're a teacher on the feed, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it doesn't, there's only so much that I can talk in a day or in a week about even my most favorite Shakespeare play or my most
Yeah,
favorite movie. And like, I've seen Apocalypse Now in terms of the number of times that I've watched it in order to prep for a lecture, because I've taught it like, I think it's my favorite movie. I've taught it almost every semester or whatever, sometimes multiple. I was teaching multiple classes, right? Because I was primarily a lecturer. I wasn't like research, tenure track, whatever.
yeah,
So anyway, point is, I've seen Apocalypse Now probably like close to 200 times, and so there's no matter how much I love that movie, there's only so much time that I can enjoy or find it
yeah.
stimulating to talk about it. So honestly, that's why I started my YouTube channel. To be honest with you, is I wanted to try to do something that was new or that didn't bore me or whatever.
Gave you an outlet somewhere else beyond
Yeah.
just the things that you were doing. Yeah, I suppose like for to really to do that for that long, to do it, to be a teacher for that long, you would really have to really take great pleasure in the growth of the young human mind to not find it boring at least a little bit.
Well, and I'll tell you, this is another kind of sad truth, but people who anybody who's had a kind of, I mean, you probably even you can get this even right now with pop culture crisis. What I'm about to say, I think, is that when people tell you the first time or the first or you the 100 times or whatever, like, oh, you're doing a great job, this is amazing, or whatever people say, it has more of an effect at it has less
Yeah.
of an effect, I think, the more you hear it, just because you get used to it, not because you discount it or you don't think it's cool. And so what I really try to do is remind myself whenever people pay me a compliment or whenever I hit some kind of like a milestone, like when I came to your show, both times, but particularly the first time because I hadn't been on it before, like I really tried to say to myself, like, "Wow, you're at Timcast
Yeah.
Studios and and these people paid to have you come sit with them. Like, this is crazy. This is great," you know? I try to, like, focus on things like that.
I'm kind of the opposite. I kind of I don't pay any of it any attention. Like, I keep
Maybe
shilling
I
the
think too
idea.
much. I probably
I
think
keep
too
I no, no, I no, here's the thing, like, it's not about not thinking about it. It's about thinking about it, but not assigning weight to it for me. Like
maybe that works
whenever
for
we
you,
whenever
though.
we hit those periods, it's because I tend to be a pessimist, at least especially when it comes to myself. So whenever we're in a peak, whenever you're in the peak, I'm expecting the valley to come right after.
Yeah,
And what you
yeah,
have
I
to
hear you.
learn, especially when you do this, especially if you're on YouTube or anything with social media, first of all, for me, like, if I wasn't doing it for work, I don't think I'd be doing it. I don't like I don't have like a strong desire to share my opinions on a regular basis most of the time. I don't even really tweet or post all that much outside of it. I find topics interesting. I think there's stuff that's fun to discuss, but I feel like the people who really love this have a deep desire to have their opinions heard,
Uh-huh,
and I
uh-huh,
don't know if I necessarily share that, but for me,
hear you.
what you have to learn is that there's ups and downs, and that, a lot of people, they get really high on the ups and they get really bummed when you hit the low points, or when you start to fade a little bit, and then you have to wait for that next peak. And as somebody who has plenty of history going up and down with his emotional state, I just find it easier for me to kind of disassociate in a way and try to, yeah, that's great, but whatever. Like, and that's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I find that for me at least, it's very good for my brain.
I, um, I think that makes you
Mm, mm,
a really good host and a really
mm,
good conversationalist or interlocutor,
mm,
to use a fancy term, because I feel like people feel, or I feel at least, very safe and that I could pretty much say whatever,
mm,
and you're going to, even if you don't share that opinion or you think it's
mm,
crazy or whatever, you're going to behave in a manner that is actually a bit detached or receptive or somewhat receptive so that someone feels like they have the space or the room
mm.
to get a thought out there and to not have to. I do hate it when people are just constantly immediately argumentative, that
Yeah.
that they're not even gonna like skip a beat before they go in on you, and you're not
I'll
like
have a
that.
I'll have a conversation with anybody. Like, it's like
Yeah,
I'm
very
not an
open.
argumentative person. And also I find like a lot of it to be kind of
I agree with you.
I'm not what you would call a I'm not. I do believe in objective reality, but I do believe that the subjective nature of how we perceive the world now is playing a big part in the way people interpret everything that goes on around us. It's kind of like the Big Lebowski. Well, that's just like your opinion, man. And like,
Yeah.
so for me, it's like a lot of the times, like when even if somebody has like an opinion I strongly disagree with, I'm like, bro, I don't know what they've read. I don't know where they've gotten this information. I don't know how to try to make somebody else see another point of view other than to share my own, let them share theirs, and I'm not going to hold it against them one way or the other, whatever they believe.
Right. No, I think that very much comes
Mm.
across in the way that you relate to people. And I appreciate this comment here. Josh Chandler says that's why I like PCC, Pop Culture Crisis. Everybody check it out. I'll put the link back up in a moment. But your show, Pop Culture Crisis, with you and Mary. He says Brett seems relatively, I don't know, like the relatively is
I look,
emotional.
I don't have the energy to be not
But
genuine.
you are
Like,
genuine.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I thank you for that comment, Josh. I don't understand the
There
quote,
there is
but
there is a
thank you
point to
for
be
it.
made. There is a point to be made, guys, that for anybody who works in this space, whether it's Kurtz, whether it's me, whether it's any YouTuber that you like, that there is still a performative element to what you do. There are days where I'm just exhausted and people will be like, why is Brett so low energy today? Well, that's because that's how I normally am. But you kind of have to be able to, like, look, this still has to be entertaining for people. This still has to be something. And I'm a pretty energetic person, but I just like we do our show at 3 p.m. So 3 p.m., like the last thing I want to do is like be super excited, but like I get into it, right?
Yeah.
You get moving, you get into it. And the point is like I the best people in these spaces are showmen. They're real with you. They're not lying to you, but they're showmen, and they
Mhm.
know how to convey what they believe to you in a manner that helps you connect with it. And that can be a little bit of a hindrance for some people. I enjoy the job, but for me, I just yeah, like I don't know if I would be doing this. Like if I think maybe my dream job one day would be to like maybe do the production element of this job, but not necessarily be on camera, you know?
Well, you did a great job the other
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
when Shane and I were filming, and then,
That was a lot of fun.
and joining in with as well. I really enjoyed editing that, so we'll have to do that again sometime soon. I'm going
Absolutely.
to switch over now to doing a special, end of night stream for my patrons. So, apologies to those of you who are not, I know
No, no apologies. You
but
say now you go and join.
see, that's right. That's why you're a better salesman than I am. But yes, so I am going to put up the link for that. It's $3 to join my Patreon. I do have to say though, my Patreon, like I have not been keeping up with it like I should. That's not good salesmanship, but it's an acknowledgement of that, and so it's something that I am working on. But I'm going to be doing stuff tonight, and then also every day until I leave to come and see you guys again. I can't believe
Yes.
that I'm coming back
Just 2 weeks
again. I
ago.
am so honored, man. So yeah, for people who don't know, I am gonna be coming back Friday to go on. Is it's Culture Wars, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, the
show.
culture war.
Man, the
What are you guys
Culture
gonna be
War.
talking about? What are you guys gonna be talking about?
I don't know. So I need to I'm gonna have a conversation, I think, with
Lisa?
Tim's yeah, with Tim's
Lisa?
schedule or
Yeah.
who yeah, Lisa. And so hi Lisa if you're seeing this. So anyway, but I know I think Shane's going to be coming on. So I would assume we'll be talking about some of the same stuff we discussed the other day.
That's awesome.
So I'm really excited about it. It's like it is really a dream come true to be able to sit down for a show like that. I mean, it was a dream. I told you it was a dream come true to sit down for your show. And so I'm really trying to and so to do this, to be able to sit down with Tim and Shane and whoever else comes on perhaps like it is
You guys
really
gonna
big.
talk about academia, I bet?
Yeah, I would imagine. So yeah,
Oh,
you
that'll
asked
be
me to talk about.
awesome.
I would assume it's going to be because basically whatever I'm nominally known for, to put that in quotation marks. It's Me Too, Marilyn Manson, and academia. So I would assume, and Shane and I, like just had that conversation with you. So if people want to take a look at that, go to my channel. It's still up at the beginning, the front of the channel. I think we did it like what a week and a half ago. It came out like a week ago. So
Came out like
check
a week
out
ago.
yeah, so I split it into two. The first part was Shane and I, and then Brett came in for the second part, which was the more entertaining anyway. We had some laughs. So check that out on the channel. Check out now, if you haven't already, Brett's channel, Pop Culture Crisis. I'm putting up the link again. You all have been really growing, I think. You're still such a young channel, but I'm really impressed with how your growth. I feel like it's kind of picked up actually in the last few months. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, like we hit 75K not that long ago and then got like a really big spike. And now it's kind of, again, remember peaks and valleys. Now it's kind of evening
Right?
back out. Consistency is the name of the game. Keep doing the show every day. Keep making entertaining content, and hopefully people will go check it out. I'd love it. Everybody who's watching, if you're watching on the replay, go check out Pop Culture Crisis right here on YouTube. We are working towards that 100,000 subscriber mark, which has been a lot
Almost
of fun.
there.
It's been great because we've been seeing as much fun and as great as the live episodes are every day to be able to do that. Seeing more people are tuning in for some of the segments and checking out the clipped versions of it that we put up as well. Thank you guys so much, and go check it out.
And I think you have such an entertaining or interesting dynamic chemistry with Mary. And so Mary is really awesome. So I wanted to mention her as well.
Mary's the real reason people tune in, guys.
Well,
Let's be real. It's not for
about
me.
that.
Everybody tunes in for Mary and Mary's base takes. We all know this. So,
Oh,
guys,
man.
if you don't know, you should go check it out and go listen to what she's got to say because she's a genius.
Yeah, she's very well. I'm not going to agree with the first part about you being not so important to the show, but but no, she's really,
Yeah,
really, particularly for her age. I mean, for any age, but I'm
yeah.
constantly when I listen to her or I read her tweets, I'm constantly, even when I don't agree with her, I'm constantly thinking, man, she's only what, 20s?
23.
Yeah. I'm like,
Mm.
wow.
To be that eloquent and that well spoken, to have
Fast.
the
Yeah.
knowledge that she does, to be able to formulate the thoughts that she does on complex issues at that age is incredible. That's incredible for any age. So I do recommend going and check out. Also, like the big thing about it, and it's not to be discounted, that the show works in a lot of ways because we have different interests. So a lot of these segments that people love, they are the brainchild of someone who just she takes an interest in areas of pop culture that I just wouldn't go to. Like I said,
Mm.
talking about this influencer, like I have a hard time explaining the segment about the cinnamon rolls because it's a culturally relevant. There's a discussion to be had, and she finds those things that I think a lot of other people would miss out on. So her importance to the channel cannot be understated, and I really do guys think that if you guys go and check it out, even if you watch this stream and I bore you to death,
No.
you will find her content, her opinions, her voice very, very interesting, even if you disagree
That's
with her.
funny. And well, and I think both of you
Mm.
individually and together are very entertaining. And of course, I don't know if we can even say this nowadays, but she's very pretty as well. I'm gonna
You
let
can
people
still
see
say
a
that. You're
picture.
still allowed to say that.
No, she is very pretty. I love
Mm,
her braids too.
mm,
I don't have like a picture in front of me right now of it, but she does lots of cool like hair braiding
yep.
things like that. So, oh, it's a bad picture or it's a gravelly picture. I always go back to this Children of the Village of the Damned picture just 'cause I think it's it's so entertaining.
It's
All
very
right,
her.
so yes, people they should check out your channel, and then you're on Timcast sometimes too, aren't you? Don't you sometimes
Yeah.
live stream for them?
Yeah, like whenever like if they need help, if they need somebody to do third chair, I do enjoy that. Look, I used to like politics a lot more. I've grown to really
You and
have
I
a
are
great
similar on that.
disdain, and I have a great disdain for politics. My interest was more in the fact that the media apparatus in this country is disgusting and evil. So whenever they need somebody to go on and be like, "Hey, remember, the media and the government are evil and you shouldn't trust them." I can do that. I can do that anytime. So,
Well, I've been impressed by how many topics we've covered on this
yep.
channel you've had a number of interesting opinions on. But I think you and I are similar in that we've already gone through our cycles of like being obsessed with certain topics. I don't mean
Mm,
obsessed in a negative way, but I just
mm,
hyper focused on things, even when it's positive or whatever. But I feel like I am kind of wanting to hang back from it in terms of what I say publicly or what I get into on my channel for various reasons. And I think we can do that, and that's
mm.
okay. Um, but anyway, people should check out your channel, Pop Culture Crisis. There is the link. I am about to then go to my Patreon show. And so I'm going to put the link up. Thank you, Rebel Bird, for that. Also, if you want to find me on Patreon, it's Colonel Kurtz. So if
Yes.
you just go and search Colonel Kurtz and my picture comes up, I don't think it's Colonel Kurtz 99 there. I think it's just put in Colonel Kurtz. But anyway, here's the link as well. And so what I'm going to do is I haven't even posted the link there, so I'm going to go there now. I've set up the stream, but I'm going to go there now to my main page and post the link. So if you do want to watch the rest of this, my other content, I've got a good backlog of content. Like if you go on there and you've never been to my Patreon before, or you've never joined before, there's a lot of stuff there that you can't get elsewhere. It's just that the last, really since I started waitressing, honestly, because I went back to work and started waitressing again, and been traveling and stuff like that
Yeah.
for the show, I've just not
Oh,
been up on it the last month.
I think you left your phone cord in the upstairs
I
studio.
did.
Yes, you better make sure you better come up and say hi when you're back
No,
in
I
town.
definitely am. I actually, we can talk about this, off air, so to speak, but I'm definitely going to be sticking around for, at least an hour or two afterward before I go back. So we should definitely, I know you've got your show coming up, but
Yeah.
definitely hang out a bit. Okay, everybody, to those of you who will not be coming over, totally okay, no problem. I'm going to, oh, my hair got all crazy. But I'm going to head over there now. And so, anyways, the rest of you, I will be seeing you soon, talking to you soon, putting out more videos and all of that. And Brett, the same. Check out his channel. And again, thanks to everybody. Talk to you later. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye. All right. All right. And ending the stream in 5.